Hello and welcome to the second episode in our MCA Mini Series. Whose decision is it anyway? The biggest point I would like to stress straight away is that whilst an individual has capacity in a given area, it is them who is the decision maker. But what happens when the individual lacks capacity to make the decision in question? Who can legally make the decision on their behalf? Surely somebody must be able to. Of course there is someone to help. But who is the right person? Who can legally make the decision? What about the person's next of kin? I bet they can make the decision, right? Wrong. We need to be very clear that there is no such legal entity or entitlement to the term next of kin in the eyes of the MCA. In essence, they have no legal rights. What the decision maker does need to do, though, is take the next of kin's views into account. The MCA very helpfully assists us in identifying who the legal best interest decision maker is. Let's take a look at the different options. Lasting power of attorney, also known as LPA. There are two types of LPA, health and welfare and property and finance. But what do they mean? Well, the first thing is that an individual needs to have capacity to appoint an LPA, so this is something put in place as part of advanced care planning. There are a number of options available to the individual when appointing an LPA. They can appoint as many attorneys as they wish, but usually this is between 1 to 4 attorneys. The individual could decide that their attorneys are able to make decisions jointly and severally, which means attorneys have the option to make the decision together or alone, and this allows for more flexibility and is suggested by the Office of Public Guardian, or that all decisions have to be made jointly, which can cause difficulties in certain circumstances, or that just some decisions have to be made jointly, whilst others can be made severally. Both types of LPAs must be registered with the Office of Public Guardian for them to be valid. They are registered at the stage of appointing an attorney. If somebody has filled the documents out online but has not sent them to the Office of Public Guardian to be registered, then they are not valid. With the health and welfare LPAs, this only comes into force when the individual is assessed as lacking capacity on a specific health and welfare decision. Health and welfare covers health and social care decisions. With the property and finance LPA, this could be used whilst the individual retains capacity in this area. However, they have to consent to this. For example, it may be that the individual no longer is able to access the bank and wishes for their LPA to access their account on their behalf for ease. But the individual must still be consulted on any financial decisions made. The LPA can only make decisions which fall within the scope of their power. For example, if the decision relates to a health or welfare matter and the attorney is for finance and property only, then they cannot make the decision. Also, a health and welfare attorney can only refuse life-sustaining treatment on behalf of the individual if the individual has explicitly granted this power in their attorney documentation. It is really important that you have seen the LPA document to confirm all information and to ensure it is valid. If the possible attorney fails to provide the document, don't worry, you can check the attorney register yourself. You can do this by filling out an OPG 100 form on the internet. The Office of Public Guardian then email you back with the details. Please ensure you save a copy of this or the full document wherever possible on the individual's file. There is a lot of guidance and further information on LPAs on .gov.uk if you wanted to find out more. Okay, so a valid lasting power of attorney is one possible legal decision maker. But what if there is no valid LPA in place? There must be more options. Enduring power of attorney. Enduring power of attorneys were in place prior to the creation of lasting power of attorneys. There are still some out there, however these are getting fewer and fewer now. There are some key things to know about enduring power of attorney. One of the most important things to note is that enduring power of attorney was only ever for finance and property, not health and welfare. Enduring power of attorneys are not registered until the individual has lost capacity with regards to finance and property. The process of registration is lengthy and includes other family members being notified of the impending registration, allowing them the opportunity to object or challenge it. The same rules apply. If somebody says they have enduring power of attorney, check the document and make sure it is valid. Remember, they will only be a legal decision maker if the decision in question is finance or property related, the individual lacks the relevant capacity, and the enduring power of attorney is registered. Okay, so that's 2 possible legal decision makers now. But who else could there be? Court of Protection Deputy. You might be thinking, what about those individuals who either have never had or have suddenly lost capacity to appoint an attorney? In those instances, those wishing to be appointed can apply to the Court of Protection to ask that they grant them Court of Protection deputyship. Again, this is in relation to health and welfare and/or property and finance. The same rules apply. The deputies can only make decisions in relation to the power that they have. Don't forget, we still need documentation to prove this deputyship is valid and a copy kept on the individual's file. Deputyships are very closely monitored by the Court of Protection, with the deputies having to report each year on what decisions they have made and why, to include what money has been spent if they are deputies for finance. An important thing to note is that Court of Protection deputies are not able to refuse life-sustaining treatment on behalf of the individual, as the individual would have never been able to grant them this power due to lacking the capacity to have done so. Wow, this has been a lot of information. Surely that's it. Nope, there are still 3 more possible legal decision makers. An advanced decision to refuse treatment. I'm not going to go into detail on this type of legal decision maker, as this was the topic of the last MCA Mini Series episode. Make sure you check it out if you haven't already. Essentially, this is when an individual has already made the relevant refusal of treatment prior to losing capacity. There are several factors though that need to be met in order for these advanced decisions to refuse treatments to be considered valid. If those criteria are met, then this is the legal decision made. And what better than the individual having been able to make the decision for themselves? So hang on, what if all the options of legal decision makers we've spoken about so far are not there? What if there is no relevant attorney, no deputy, no valid advanced decision to refuse treatment? What then? Well, in those circumstances, the legal decision maker is the best placed professional under Section 5 of the MCA. Easy, right? No? Okay, well let's think of some examples. If the decision is health related, then the best placed decision maker would be a medical professional who is involved in the care of the individual and responsible for the procedure in question. So for example, the relevant consultant perhaps, the district nurse, GP. If the decision relates to the individual's social care needs, then the best placed professional again would be someone who is involved in the care of the individual. Their social worker, care home manager, carer, support worker. It needs to be considered what the decision in question is. How complex is this decision? What factors need to be considered? And this ultimately supports in identifying the best placed professional. For argument's sake, a social worker would not be considered the best placed professional if the decision in question was a health decision, and vice versa. And there is one more final possible legal decision maker, the Court of Protection. But more on that in our next MCA Mini Series episode. Remember, no matter who the legal decision maker is, they must adhere to the MCA Codes of Practice. Follow the best interest checklist, including considering relevant information, human rights, the individual's cultural and religious needs, the views of relevant others, and identifying the least restrictive option. And ultimately consider what the individual would have wanted and what decision they would have made had they been able to do so. Gosh, that was lots to take in. But you should hopefully now be able to identify whose decision is it anyway? Please take the time to explore the different legal decision makers further. The MCA Codes of Practice is a great place to start. Thank you for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss a Mental Capacity App mini-series episode. See you all next time.